It was just another cold night in the Firth of Clyde, October 1990. A sprawling, ancient waterway, vital to Scotland's fishing industry and steeped in maritime history. For generations, brave men have ventured into these treacherous yet bountiful waters, their lives intertwined with the sea's unpredictable moods. This night, however, held a chilling secret, an impending tragedy that would forever scar the calm face of this historical sea. But beneath the surface, far from the familiar world of trawlers and their crews, something massive, silent, and incredibly powerful was moving. A leviathan of the deep, a sentinel of a hidden war, charting a course through the same waters, yet existing in an entirely different dimension of purpose and peril. It was a Royal Navy nuclear submarine, a vessel designed for stealth and absolute discretion, whose very presence was often unknown to those who sailed above. This is the story of the FV Antares, a 74-foot trawler, a workhorse of the Scottish fleet, crewed by 4 men from the close-knit fishing village of Carradale, Argyll. Men like James Johnston, the skipper, a seasoned veteran of the Clyde, his son, Jamie, learning the ropes, and crewmen Richard Allen and John Craig. Their lives were dictated by the tides, the weather, and the relentless pursuit of the day's catch. They were a microcosm of a community built on the sea, their livelihoods, and their very identity bound to its rhythm. The Antares was more than just a boat, it was a home away from home, a symbol of their resilience and connection to the vast ocean. Experienced men, familiar with every swell and current, every shift in the wind, every nuance of their challenging profession. They understood the dangers, the long hours, the physical demands. But they also knew the rewards, the camaraderie, the independence, the thrill of a good haul. Their routine was etched deep, a dance with the elements honed over decades. They worked with a quiet efficiency, their movements economical, their knowledge of the vessel and its gear instinctual. This night, like countless others, began with the familiar rituals of preparation, a testament to their enduring dedication. Unbeknownst to the crew of the Antares, that same night, HMS Trenchant, a state-of-the-art Royal Navy Trafalgar-class hunter-killer submarine, was operating nearby. Engaged in what was described as a simulated war patrol, the submarine was conducting a series of complex maneuvers and exercises. These waters, while vital for fishing, were also designated training grounds for the UK's powerful undersea fleet. It was a coexistence of disparate worlds, a delicate balance that relied on strict protocols and constant vigilance. But on this fateful night, that balance would be catastrophically disturbed. The submarine, designed to be undetectable, was on a mission that would tragically intersect with the Antares' innocent voyage. Around 3 a.m., deep in the pre-dawn hours, the Antares' fishing nets caught something heavy, impossibly heavy. This was no ordinary catch. The winch strained, groaning under immense, unforeseen pressure. The seasoned crew immediately knew something was terribly wrong. This wasn't a snag on the seabed. This felt alive, immense, pulling with a force that threatened to tear the sturdy trawler apart. Panic began to ripple through the small crew as the vessel started to behave erratically, an unnatural force dragging it sideways, then backward. The situation escalated with terrifying speed, morphing from a challenging fishing moment into a desperate struggle for survival. Within seconds, the vessel was no longer merely struggling. It was being dragged, violently, irrevocably, beneath the waves. The Antares flipped with an agonizing lurch, its stern pulled down first, bow rearing high against the black sky. The 4 men had no time to react, no chance to send a distress signal, no hope of escape. The ocean, their lifelong companion, became their merciless tomb. The lights, which moments before had offered a small beacon of human endeavor, blinked out, plunged into permanent darkness. The suddenness of it was absolute, a brutal snatching away of life. No distress call, no survivors. Just the cold, indifferent embrace of the deep, swallowing not just a vessel, but 4 vibrant lives, their stories tragically cut short. The sea, which had always provided, had now taken back with devastating finality. What remained was an empty expanse of water, an unsettling silence where moments before had been the noisy, hard-working life of a fishing boat. The ocean surface gave no clue to the horror that had unfolded beneath, only the endless churn of waves, erasing all immediate traces. By morning, the grim reality began to emerge. When the Antares failed to return to port, a search operation was launched. Rescuers, battling the lingering mist and the vastness of the Clyde, found only debris, life rings, fishing gear, pieces of wood. Haunting fragments of a life violently extinguished. Hope, a fragile thing in such circumstances, quickly faded, replaced by a terrible certainty. The discovery of these forlorn items painted a stark picture of a catastrophic event, one that defied easy explanation. The ocean had once again proven its formidable power, but this felt different. Too swift, too absolute. Days later, the wreck was located. It lay upright on the seabed, in 300 feet of water, a ghostly sentinel against the deep. Initial inspections by divers revealed the chilling truth. The Antares' heavy trawling nets were not simply snagged, they were violently torn apart, shredded with an almost impossible force, indicating an encounter of immense power. The damage was unlike anything typically seen from striking a seabed obstruction or another surface vessel. It hinted at a collision with something massive, something that moved with an unstoppable momentum. The questions began to multiply, each one more unsettling than the last. What could have done this? And why was there no trace of what caused such devastation? Soon, attention turned to a Royal Navy submarine, HMS Trenchant. It had been operating in the Firth of Clyde at the time of the Antares' sinking. This was not a secret. The Royal Navy routinely exercised in these waters. However, the exact movements of submarines were, by their very nature, classified. The families of the lost fishermen, and indeed the entire nation, began to demand answers. Was it possible that this silent hunter, designed to operate unseen, was involved in the tragedy? The mere suggestion sent shockwaves through the community, turning grief into a desperate yearning for truth. The stark contrast between the humble fishing boat and the sophisticated war machine fueled public suspicion. The Marine Accident Investigation Branch, an independent body, began its inquiry, facing immense pressure. Their task, to uncover precisely what happened in the dark, churning waters of the Clyde. They gathered sonar data, examined naval logs, interviewed submarine crew members, and analyzed every scrap of information. This was a painstaking process, a forensic reconstruction of events from fragments of data and human memory. The investigation became a high-stakes puzzle, with human lives and national reputation hanging in the balance. The details began to paint a picture not of a simple accident, but of a catastrophic chain of errors. Slowly, painstakingly, the truth began to emerge. The submarine, HMS Trenchant, had indeed passed directly beneath the Antares. The inquiry revealed that the submarine, at periscope depth, had made a series of maneuvers that brought it into direct contact with the fishing vessel's nets. This wasn't a head-on collision, but a devastating entanglement. The sheer size and speed of the submarine, moving silently beneath the surface, meant that the Antares' nets, designed to catch fish, instead snared a titan of steel. The immense drag created by the submarine, still underway, proved too much for the trawler. It was a cruel twist of fate, a confluence of two worlds that should never have met in such a violent manner. The diagram illustrated the almost unbelievable mechanics of the disaster, a stark visual representation of a nightmare come true. The official report cited a tragic confluence of watchkeeping errors and a critical misjudgment on board the HMS Trenchant that sealed the fate of the Antares and its crew. The submarine crew, though highly trained, had failed to properly analyze acoustic contacts and maintain an accurate picture of surface traffic. In a moment of intense training exercise, the focus had been inward, on their mission, rather than outward, on the shared waters. There were procedures in place to prevent such incidents, but they were tragically not followed or misinterpreted. A visual lookout was hampered by the submarine's periscope depth, and the sonar systems, though advanced, were either misinterpreted or the contacts were not adequately tracked. It was a devastating lapse, a moment of human fallibility with catastrophic consequences. The report detailed a series of failures, from insufficient briefings to inadequate monitoring of the surface picture, painting a grim portrait of how a complex system designed for safety could tragically fail. Public outrage followed the release of the findings. The sheer scale of the Royal Navy's culpability, the loss of 4 innocent lives due to what was essentially preventable human error, ignited a national debate. Questions demanded answers, not just from the Navy, but from the government itself. How could a state-of-the-art submarine, operating in home waters, be responsible for such a devastating accident? The incident became a lightning rod for broader concerns about military exercises in civilian waters, and the perceived arrogance of a naval establishment that, some argued, prioritized secrecy over safety. The families, devastated by their loss, became unwitting advocates for systemic change, their voices amplified by a grieving nation demanding justice and accountability. For families forever changed. The names of James and Jamie Johnston, Richard Allen, and John Craig became etched into the tragic history of the Firth of Clyde. Their absence left an irreplaceable void in their homes, their community, and the hearts of those who loved them. No inquiry, no report, no amount of public outcry could ever truly heal the wounds inflicted by that cold October night. Their stories, their laughter, their dreams, all extinguished in an instant. The sea, which had given them so much, had ultimately claimed them, but not by its own wild nature, rather by the tragic errors of others. A quiet memorial, facing the expanse of the Clyde, serves as a poignant reminder of their lives and the terrible cost of unforeseen tragedy. In the wake of the Antares tragedy, new safety protocols were introduced, both within the Royal Navy and for civilian maritime traffic. Submarine commanders were given stricter guidelines regarding operations in congested fishing areas, emphasizing constant vigilance and improved communication with surface vessels. The incident served as a brutal, undeniable lesson that even in the most technologically advanced environments, human error can have devastating consequences. Efforts were made to improve sonar interpretation training, to enforce rigorous watchkeeping standards, and to foster a culture where safety of civilian vessels was paramount. From the ashes of this disaster, a clearer, safer path was forged, aimed at preventing such a grievous oversight from ever happening again. The report, once signed, became more than just a document. It was a commitment, a promise to the departed and their grieving families. Today, the Antares lies quietly beneath the Clyde, a silent testament to a night of unthinkable misfortune. It rests not as a forgotten relic, but as a perpetual reminder of the delicate balance between human endeavor and the immense power of technology and the critical importance of human vigilance. Its hull, now a habitat for marine life, tells a story of an industry's perils and a navy's responsibilities. Divers occasionally visit, treating the site with respect, a submerged monument to the lives lost and the lessons learned. The quiet ecosystem that has claimed the Antares now holds its secrets, watched over by the gentle currents of the Firth of Clyde. The sea remembers everything. It holds the echoes of every storm, every journey, every triumph, and every tragedy. The story of the Antares is a somber chapter in that vast, unending chronicle. It reminds us that even in an age of advanced navigation and powerful machines, the human element remains paramount. It is a cautionary tale, echoing across the decades, a stark reminder that beneath the calm surface of our everyday lives, unforeseen forces can conspire, and vigilance is the ultimate safeguard. And in the quiet waters of the Clyde, the memory of 4 fishermen endures, woven into the very fabric of the sea they loved, and the community that remembers them.